But when it's dark, however, he received a message from the children. Someone work overtime, other whose son is sick. In short, all his 4 children stood him up. The father was disappointed. He took the steaks prepared for the children to roast and eat them alone. The next day, Frank decided, if the children didn't have time to go home, then he'll visit them himself. For children, in 4 cities, Frank had a heart attack so he couldn't take the plane. After finishing packing, he went on his way. Along the way, he excitedly showed off to strangers, "I coded the wire. But look at this picture. How outstanding my children are. The oldest son is an orchestra conductor. The youngest son is an artist. The little daughter is a dancer. The eldest daughter is a senior manager of a company." There are no words to describe his pride. He didn't know how long he had been on the train. Finally came the first station, New York City, where his youngest son lives. He rang the doorbell of the apartment, but no one answered. He just waited outside the door, wait until he fell asleep. But he didn't appear to be home. In the end, he could only quietly leave with his luggage. There was an art gallery with the lights are still on nearby. Frank walked over to take a look. The picture that was hanging on the wall was painted by his son. In a flash, he imagined his son being there as a youngster. Slowly rode the bicycle towards him. Just passed a sleepless night. The next day, a stranger came up and opened the door for him. But his son was still not at home. He eventually left a pre-written letter under the door. "It's Dad, I want to surprise you, but you're not at home, call me later." Going through another long journey. Finally arrived at the second stop. This is the mansion of his older daughter. Her son opened the door, was active and healthy, without any illness. He passed the mansion and saw his daughter calling next to the pool. He whistled to her. At that moment, his daughter was like she was back in her childhood. "Dad?" The daughter ran towards him, although she was smiling, but there was some insecurity hidden on her face. At night, son-in-law hastily returned. The family had dinner together. Grandson didn't respect his grandfather. For a moment, the atmosphere turned awkward. Frank wanted to stay a few more days, so the daughter said, "It was a bad time to visit. Tomorrow I and my husband have to go to work." Frank said, "It's okay, I can spend time with my grandchild." The daughter said, "But he's off on a field trip tomorrow." "Really, where are you going?" "I don't know, nobody tells me anything anymore." This is obviously wanting to kick him away, but Frank also calmly accepted. The next day, Frank started on his way again. The next stop was to see the eldest son. He always thought that his son is an orchestra conductor. And in the symphony orchestra, the conductor is the person with the highest position. But when he went to the conservatory, he found out his son is only a percussionist. Frank's appearance interrupted the practice. The son left the stage awkwardly. "Hey Dad, what are you doing here? Aren't you conducting?" "Not today." Looking at his disappointed face, he also didn't want to explain more. After finishing practice, he suggested wanting to stay. He wanted to spend some time with his son, but he said, "Dad, I fly to Europe this evening. We gotta pack up this afternoon." The father said nothing. The son saw him off. As the son was about to say goodbye, he called his dad back. "I'm sorry that we couldn't spend more time together." The father didn't know how to talk to him. Just nod and say goodbye. But he didn't know that his son always worried about him. Stealthily followed him to the station, actually, his whole journey. The children all know, so they always tried to avoid him. Because the youngest son had happened. His apartment, soon no one left. Frank saw a vagrant in the subway tunnel. He was around his son's age, he was kindness. He gave money to the young vagrant, but the vagrant stood up and tried to grab all of Frank's money. The old man was unexpectedly strong. One hand pushed him away, but the drug fell to the ground. This drug was prescribed by the doctor before he left. He suffered from heart disease, had to take his medicine on time every day. Frank begged the vagrant to return his medicine, but the man crushed the pill. Frank just bent down, collecting the small fragments left over. Back at the hotel, he put the powder in his mouth. Swallowed down. Only that much left, after many tormented times. Finally he reached the last stop, where he visited his youngest daughter. Fortunately, she did not disappoint him. She rented a luxury car, laugh and talk all the way to the apartment. She then took him to her fancy apartment, let him stay in a large room. At the same time, her friend brought her baby over, who wanted to ask for babysitting. She wanted to refuse, but Frank agreed very cheerfully. During dinner, Frank told his daughter he planned to return tomorrow, because he knew that this apartment was not hers. He didn't want her to act like that. Every time say goodbye to his children, he all asked the same question. "Are you happy?" "Yes, I'm very happy." "You're happy?" Yes, of course I am happy. And you're happy? Happy, yeah. I get paid to bang a drum. Of course I'm happy. But he knew they weren't happy. On the plane home, his heart disease recurred after he was in a coma. He had a strange dream, the dream of his kids as young children. He asked suspiciously, I always wonders, why are you fooling me? It turned out that he soon found out. The children were hiding something from him. The oldest daughter had separated from her husband, that's why caused the tension with son-in-law and grandson. The band that his son was participating in had no plans to tour Europe either, even there was no show that night. And her friend's child. Actually it was the daughter of the youngest daughter. The children said, Dad, there are lots of things that we don't tell you. But that doesn't mean that we want to hurt you. A lens is moved, returns to reality. It was raining with thunder. He was taken to the hospital. Frank awakened in hospital. The three children were around his bedside. That was ironic until something happened. This family has just been reunited, but the youngest son still didn't appear. Frank began to suspect, with a bad premonition. He kept asking. The oldest daughter finally spoke the truth. He died, Dad. Since Mom died, he had a lot of problems. The week Frank went to visit the children, he was traveling. Unfortunately, there was an accident. He died. That's why we didn't want you stay with us. That's why we all made excuses. No, that's not true. Not my son. That's not my son. No, it can't be my son. After recovering, Frank returned home. Look at the pictures the whole family has ever taken. He made a decision again. He returned to New York. There is a showroom. There was a picture of the youngest son inside. The girl at the desk told him that the painting had already been sold. He left in disappointment. The girl ran out to tell Frank. After reading the contact information he left, she just realized he was the father of the late artist. She brought him back to the gallery, saying that your son has a painting that hasn't sold for a long time. Give it to you as a souvenir. It's a painting of a power lines in the snow. Gloomy and idyllic. The others of course wouldn't know. This is the work that Frank has been doing for a lifetime, wiping stains on the electric pole. Very hard and boring, but in the eyes of his son, it has a very different kind of aura. I think, if he was still alive, he will definitely say, I'm sorry, I can't be your pride, Dad. But as a painter, I'm even more proud to be your son. In a flash, Christmas was here. Frank's busy again. Got some wines and pine tree, only this time, he was no longer alone. His children helping cook and decorate the tree. His grandson played games on the sofa. Boys and girls were busy in the kitchen, although mother and younger brother were gone. But nostalgia and love remain. Tell me, what's missing between us and our parents is communication. No, it's reunion.